Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE. In this episode, I want to be doing some 3D therapy. So let's get started. So basically the idea is to draw like a snail. If you imagine yourself like a snail, you're painting over 3D geometry and try to make like a single continuous lines. Okay, so there are many ways to do this. The first one may be just a simple one. Just use grease pencil. Start with a blank grease pencil, and we're gonna be drawing on top of this object. So we can set up so its strokes placement is on the surface. Right click. I like to use maximum strength, and the radius you can pick yourself. So I'm just gonna be doing some little, I actually like a thicker radius. So I'm drawing this on top of this default cube. Okay, so I'm drawing just like on this 3 different surface. Okay, by default the placement is not exactly on the surface. You need to offset it, make the offset smaller. So let's just draw it again. So I just try to make the doodle so if this is like the snail, it doesn't go outside the surface, but we're gonna try to make it like a single continuous lines, and the result will be kind of like a, it's some type of like a random walk algorithm, but you are actually manually drawing this. And you can actually get a 3D mesh out of this grease pencil. So this is the idea. There's another method where you basically paint on the vertex, and then we're gonna use geometry nodes to try to delete some faces. Okay, so we don't need some kind of complex algorithm. We are just gonna be using our visual perceptions, our brain. You can always connect this into another line. Okay, it's a doodle. Okay, once you're done, go back to object mode. Let's save this very quickly. Snail walk. And you can always right click and then convert this into Bezier curve. So this is the grease pencil. We have the curve. So as a curve object, you can of course use bevel, and that's kind of one way to make it into mesh. But since we know geometry nodes, we can take advantage of geometry nodes. Curve 2 points, I believe. So we can, yeah, simply turn this into points. Set radius, maybe. Set point radius. Set the points based on the length, and then point to volume and volume to mesh. Make the point smaller. Okay, the density, let's increase the number of voxel. And yeah, and this guy is now like a proper mesh. You can duplicate it, you can right click, convert it into mesh, and we're gonna just use sculpt cloud filter. I just like to do this. It's not like you have to do this, it's just like my way to make this more interesting. Just inflate it and go the other way, so you can inflate and then make it smaller. Okay, so that's one way. You can see the result is a little bit like a kind of like a tree or I don't know, it's a could be something. Shade smooth it. Okay, so that's one. Let's just move this into collection using M. Just call it 1 and just hide it. So let's create another one, this time using Suzanne. Just gonna subdivide it, Control 2. And then we're gonna use geometry nodes. Actually, I will apply this. Oh, actually, cancel that. We're gonna use remesh modifier. And yeah, I like to use this surface because it's more even. Apply. And I'm gonna paint on this using sculpt mode and paint color. Okay, sculpt mode and paint color is actually really fast. Okay, something to keep in mind. So once again, set the radius and start painting. I like my radius to be higher. And again, just start doodling on this. Keep it like a single continuous lines. It's a little bit trickier on a 3D surface, but just keep going with it. Just follow your instinct. We could be making like some kind of mask, and this mask gonna be 3D at some point. Follow the topology surface of Suzanne. In this case, it's just Suzanne head, right? But it can be anything. You just want to create kind of like interesting looking lines. So lines is probably like the simplest tools in art. It's not a shading, it's just lines. But I personally like drawing lines because it's somehow it's like a therapy. So it's kind of, sometimes you want it to be touching and then intersecting, but sometimes you just let it loose. Sometimes you want to avoid it, maybe not overlapping too much. Maybe it's like a snake game, you know. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with this. Maybe I overlap it too much. Normally you want to do this like procedurally, you create a shader and you create lines, but in this case it's just like a manual thing. It's fun, it's therapeutic. Once you're done with it, what else can you do with this? Okay, let's go to geometry nodes, create new nodes. Just gonna use name attributes. Okay, what is name attributes? Okay, we just did a color painting using sculpt mode, and the color goes into this attribute called color. It's red color. We can actually grab it using name attributes. So geometry nodes, okay, it's a color, so we can use compare, and we can delete geometry based on the color. Okay, so that's the idea. It's really simple, and once you've done this, you can use smooth this 10 times and solidify. So that solidify is the quick way. You can also use geometry nodes, of course, but I think, yeah, it's a fun little 3D exercise, you know. You can do this anytime you like. I mean, you can go back to the sculpt and then continue painting, but now we have two different art, and what matters is really here is the process more than anything. So we can put the Suzanne inside this cage. Okay, so there you go. It's a 3D therapy for today. Hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.